being a NASCAR driver, there's 39 losers and 1 winner. I remember thinking, I almost died right there. 9 months later, I was without a job, sleeping in my rental car in the parking lot. If I ever had a shot to win a race, this is it. Right after that national anthem, you load into the car. Nerves are kicking in. When they say, gentlemen, start your engines, you light that engine up. You hear that sound of 8 cylinders and 750 horsepower fire up. That's when it gets real. You can't lose focus, not even for a second. Inside that race car, it is hot, it is loud, it is rough, but there's not a lot of time to unclench from the steering wheel because you're holding on so tight. And when you're in that zone, everything slows down and gets quiet. Your brain is going faster than those wheels are. You're not just thinking about where that car is, where you are, but the move you're gonna make, how you're gonna make it, what you need to do. Even though you're 200 miles an hour, inches apart or inches from the wall, you don't feel like it. You feel like you're in complete control until you're not. I came into NASCAR in 2008. I was young and arrogant and had a chip on my shoulder. I'd won everything that I've ever done leading up to that point and felt like that wasn't gonna stop. And very quickly, I got very humbled in this sport. 2008, the first thing right out of the gate, race 2, Texas. I had this huge crash. I got into turn 1 and got loose, and the car started to spin out, and I went to the brakes, and there was no brakes there. Went to the gas, and it just hooked. And when it hooked and turned, I was facing the wall, and I remember thinking, man, this is gonna hurt.
Whoa, guys, whoa, whoa, oh, no, oh, my gosh.
When I hit the wall, I was doing about 185 miles an hour when I went head on into the wall. Somewhere around 100 Gs was the impact, and then barreled 13 times. Once that first impact happened, everything got super quiet, and it sounded like somebody hit the mute button, and I could just hear a crunch, crunch, crunch. And I was just thinking, when is this gonna be over? And when it finally landed, I remember wiggling my fingers, wiggling my toes, trying to figure out, all right, I got anything broke? Am I alive? What just happened? And once I got out of the car and I stepped down, I realized that they're playing it on the replay. And when I saw it from that perspective, I was like, oh man, I almost died right there. You want to get known for winning races and winning championships, but I got known, for that big accident. I came into the sport with a big contract and a multi-year deal, and 9 months later, I was without a job, and my wife was pregnant, expecting our first child, and just so much happening in that period of time, and so many trials that it was really hard to wrap my head around, what God was doing. I remember, just opening up my Bible and just praying, like, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I just closed my eyes and I opened up my Bible and I landed on James 1. And James 1 says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be not lacking in anything. And it's just one of those moments where just God spoke to me that this, hard times that I'm facing, it's for a reason, that it's doing something in me and through me, and it's teaching me about what it means to persevere and what it means to lean in and trust in God. And that perspective really changed, what my next 10 years looked like in the sport. It was rough and it was a grind, and showing up to the racetrack knowing that you're not going to be able to run all the races and not run all the laps, and driving to the racetracks and sleeping in my rental car in the parking lots and staying in other people's hotels and bumming rides just to get there, that it wasn't wasted, that God was using it and that he was doing something that was shaping and molding not just my career, but me. I was doing what I had to do to stay in the sport, to continue to gain experience and build relationships that one day would hopefully allow me to go back to full-time racing. And I started with a small team, and we were running 30th every weekend. And then, 6 months later, we're running 25th, and 6 months later, we're running 20th. And it's just a slow process and a build. And finally got to where I was running full-time and running competitively. Still wasn't winning. Wasn't running top 10, top 5, but we were in the mix. And it started to feel like there was, light at the end of the tunnel. And finally got to the point last year where we were competitive every weekend and getting top 10s and getting some top 5s. And, that took 14 years to know that, you can be without a job in just a second. Just helped me to really just trust God, that God had a plan and doesn't always look how I want it to look or how I expected it to look, but God is faithful. And I came to the racetrack week after week hopeful that this is the week. This is the week it's going to happen. This is the week that everything's going to come together and I'll finally get that opportunity to win a race. And, it took a long, long time and a lot of trials to get there, but my opportunity finally came. First race of the year, our biggest race in the sport, Daytona 500. The granddaddy, if I ever had a shot to win a race, this is it. It finally all started to come together. Coming to about 5 laps to go, I felt like I was in a really good spot. I was right where I wanted to be. I had a plan, sitting in the top 5, sitting third. Coming off of turn 2, I had a big run. I was pushing the 2 car. He went for it, tried to pass the 22, and it was literally like the seas parted. They had contact. The 2 went to the right, the 22 went to the left, and I went right through the middle. And then the caution comes out with the checkered flag, and you sit there and you think, man, I think I just won the Daytona 500. And so there's a 90 seconds there where they didn't know who had won the race. They had to go back and look at the film, and immediately my mind just went, oh, what if you didn't? What if you didn't win? You're so close. What if you didn't win? And then they said 34 to victory lane. I just remember just being overwhelmed with emotion. I was making noises that I didn't know I could make, and just so much pure just excitement to finally win a race and to do it at the Daytona 500. And I remember about 30 minutes after the win, just this overwhelming just gratefulness and very sombering of feeling like, man, I didn't do anything. Like, God literally provided this opportunity, and it started 14 years ago. God was walking with me through the valleys before we got to the mountaintop, the grind and the trials. He was shaping and molding me for this moment, to be ready for this moment. When you get to the mountaintop and you know that God's walked with you the entire time and that Christ dwells in us. He died on the cross for me so I could be forgiven of my sins. That's enough for me to give him my entire life and to follow him. There's nothing greater than having that peace of knowing that God is with you and walks with you. My name's Michael McDowell, and I am second.